So in this segment, we're going to be discussing what Keir Starmer sees as kind of the future for the country under his tenureship as Prime Minister. So this is quite interesting, these little clips here.
You've talked about a decade of national renewal. Do you want to be Prime Minister for a decade if that's what the electorate wants?
Oh, I want to see that through. It's my phrase.
You serve a decade?
Of course.
It's a long old time to be a Prime Minister.
It is, but those are my chosen words.
It isn't that long. I think we had, Cameron for 6 years. Well, I guess if you look at the Conservatives recently, Tony Blair was there for over a decade, and a lot of them would have served for about 10 years if they wanted to. I think Cameron definitely would have done had he not fumbled the Brexit referendum. So I don't think that's that rare, to be honest with you. I think they would stay for 10 years, 2 premierships, if they weren't voted out or stabbed in the back by the party.
A decade indicates how long I think it's going to take for the fundamental change, which will see a country transformed, and that years later people will be...
I don't know, dog, when you're pushing Conservative Party policies, I don't think you're going to transform it that much.
Able to look back and say that was a real game-changing government.
You'd be 71 if you were Prime Minister for a decade. You got the energy to be Prime Minister at 71?
I'm determined to see this through. I've certainly got the energy, the intent.
Not worried about your knee when you're 70?
Well,
it's a bit scary that 70 years old, to be leader of the country. Well, he'll be 70 at the end of the 10 years, so it's not so bad. There are obviously he's not where Biden and Trump are and Pelosi and that era, that kind of age of politicians. So I'm not that nervous he's going to be that old, honestly. I can see the interviews making a light-hearted joke there. But when you look at the more important stuff...
So what do you want? It just seems to me that growth is sort of the new magic money tree, though. What kind of growth do you want? Do you want 1%, 2%, 3%? What do you want?
The highest sustained growth in the G7.
So what is that,
which
roughly?
Is ambitious. Well, the highest sustained growth, that'll be determined over time, but to be the top of the G7.
Okay, but you have to appreciate that is slightly meaningless, because it could just be 0.1%. We could even be in recession and still be better off than the rest of the G7.
It's also the sustained growth element. You're talking about you want to grow 1-2% every quarter, which I don't know how many countries can even do that. So it's this the sustained growth element, which could be a problem for them as well.
Significant growth.
You don't know.
I don't accept this defeatism. I understand the challenge you're putting to me.
Defeatism. It's like when the Tories talk about you're putting down the country. It just doesn't make sense him going down this line. You have to offer actual policy solutions and aims and objectives. How are you going to reach your goals? That's what we need.
Just be nice to have a ballpark figure of how large you want the economy to be in 5 years' time.
Under the last Labour government, we grew by about 2.5%.
So you're looking for that kind of growth, 2.5%?
Certainly, yes.
Just it doesn't 2.5%. Here we go.
Certainly, yes, 0.5%.
So you're looking for that?
We grew by about 2.5%.
So you're looking for that kind of growth, 2.5%?
Certainly.
So, when New Labour inherited the economy, the country was doing better. It was kind of recovering from, I think, that mid-90s recession that we had. And so it was coming into a country that was on the come up, whereas currently we are very stagnant and we don't have the same growth opportunities we had back then. So how are they going to achieve this growth? That's the question. That's something the media just are struggling to ask of Labour. Which policies are specifically going to do it? Go on, there's more.
There is nothing more important.
He's asked about child poverty here. We covered this, and basically saying we can't scrap the 2-child limit because there's enough money, which is a bit ridiculous. When you look at their plans for growth from what we've seen here, I'm going to mention this a few times in different videos, which is Reeves planning to create new fiscal instruments to stimulate demand from institutional investors. She's considering how government can take some of the risk for investors in key projects. So seeing that with GB Energy, where Labour can't decide if they are an investment vehicle or if they're an energy company that will actually generate energy. They can't decide which one it is, because I don't think they fundamentally know. They just know it polls well. That's all they care about. Billions seen coming straight away from the private sector. Labour announced a global investment summit in its first 100 days and is working with the British Infrastructure Council to raise money for the green transition. Housing, transport seen key to delivery of Starmer's missions. Plans hark back to PFI, public-private partnerships, expanded under Blair and Brown, which were Alex Wickham calling highly controversial. I would say a complete disaster that is still impacting us to this day. Piecing together Labour's plan to pay for fixing the country. Some tax rises are possible, but most of the money is going to come from private investors. Them saying getting BlackRock to rebuild Britain. And the question is, what's in it for BlackRock? And we're seeing it here, when it comes to the PFI stuff, schools struggling because of this. Private, these PFI schools are locked into 25 to 30-year contracts in which charges rise more than other schools. One school said it's spending thousands of pounds a year to keep its playing field grass below 2.5 centimetres because of the contract they are in. And in order to renegotiate these contracts, they're going to have to go to court, and they might not win. So you're talking more in costs in legal fees. It's just wild to me, like they're going to push this system. And I'm going to cover this in a separate video anyways, because of this woman's brain dead takes here. But this idea they're going to achieve growth, they're going to sell off a lot of the country's assets and just give it away to the private sector. Very short-termist. They're doing this in order to meet their debt to GDP ratios. It doesn't make sense. This is arbitrary. This will cost more than selling bonds. And these schools, these assets, the infrastructure will not be owned by us. It will be owned by private companies. Just this isn't the Labour Party anymore. This is just a company. Honestly, this is the Labour company selling off the country to contractors and private investment. It's sad. It's sad that the party of Attlee has come to this. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.